Good evening and welcome to the October 13th, 2025 City Council Special Meeting. I am Mayor Ross and tonight's meeting is being brought to you live using video conferencing technology provided by Zoom. And the recording will be posted on the city's YouTube channel. City Clerk Jean, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Benson,
Here.
Councilmember Watton,
Here.
Councilmember Holloway,
Here.
Councilmember Washington, Councilmember Cotton, Councilmember Christensen,
Here.
Councilmember Johnson, Mayor Ross.
I am here. So
I
Council,
think Councilmember Johnson's gonna be here pretty soon.
yeah, this looks like it. Okay, so he is walking in the door. Let's excuse Councilor Washington and Cotton because we aren't sure if they have joined on the executive session link or not. So
So moved.
second. Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Holloway, second by Councilor Christensen. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? And the motion is passed and the Councilmember Cotton and Washington are excused. So move to the first item of business, which is to approve the agenda. And the agenda tonight is, for this session, is a closed session and then a strategic plan with Burt Consulting. Council may I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Holloway, second by Councilor Christensen. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? And the agenda is unanimously approved. So tonight's first item is special business is a closed session pursuant to RCW 42.30.1404B for the planning or adoption of a strategy or position to be taken during the course of any collective bargaining proceedings or reviewing the proposals made in the negotiations or proceedings lasting approximately 20, I think 15?
We can do 20.
20 minutes. And those attending will be City Attorney Dina Burke, City Administrator Mike Chambliss, our HR Manager Kim Johnson, Deputy Finance Director Jennifer Hughes, Fire Chief Mike Bailey, and our outside counsel Sophia Maybe of Summit Law. So no action is planned following the conclusion of the closed session. We will return to the open session to resume the meeting and adjourn. And we will actually be heading upstairs for the closed session in the Mountainside Conference Room. So we will return at about, say, 5:50, 5:55 at the latest. All right, let's pause the recording and we will head upstairs. Okay, we have returned from our executive session at 5:55 p.m. and we will start our next special business of strategic plan with Burt Consulting right at 6 o'clock. So we'll be back at 6 p.m. Let the record show that Councilmember Cotton joined us during the executive session. So she is also online at this point. Our second item of business is strategic plan with Burt Consulting. Tonight we have Brian Murphy and Maddie Immel for presentation and discussion. So we'll let you take it over. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. We are pleased to be back with you this evening. Let's see. Let me just share my screen here in just a moment. There we go. All right, now we're pleased to be with you. Thank you for, again, meeting with us. We were with you just 2 weeks ago this evening for the council special session focused on the strategic plan. So we're back this evening to share an update and work through the document and most importantly, get your feedback on any changes that you'd like to see made. We do plan to come on November 10th. And at that point, would be hoping for council action on the strategic plan. So we'd love to get your thoughts tonight on everything from layout to content. We will focus primarily on the public-facing version of the strategic plan and get your thoughts on that. We'll also talk through some of the implementation details. But our hope is that on November 10th, council is comfortable and ready to adopt the strategic plan unanimously. So it's important tonight. If something's not sitting well with you, if something's missing, please do raise that and we'll bring back a revision to meet that request at the next meeting. In terms of process, we won't spend long on this slide, but I will note that Maddie's going to speak in just a moment, that as we move into these final steps, we are intending to put a draft of the plan out for both community and stakeholder input, and she'll talk about that and how we'll bring back a summary of those results on November 10th. So you've seen this pyramid many, many times. I just want to use it one more time to kind of describe the altitude that the documents are at tonight. So we're looking long-term at your vision, the future of the Snoqualmie community, these midterm strategic initiatives and goals. And these are both in the public-facing version of the plan, which is that nicely laid out document with pictures and such. And that's what would go up on your website and you'd be hopefully adopting on November 10th. Below the waterline is the implementation details. And this is really a living document. We gave you a copy tonight that's printed on a 8.5 by 11, a legal size paper. It's got a bit more detail about implementation, particularly focusing on the first year of implementation. But that's something that council would work with staff to devise. And it would be updated each year as a living document, not something that needs to be formally adopted by council. So any questions on process or product?
Great. And our coworker Isa is working hard with city staff to promote the opportunity for community members to review the strategic plan. So getting ready to reach back out to stakeholders that we engage as a part of the planning process. There's a long list there of folks on the right-hand side that we interviewed, that we engaged in focus groups. We'll be sending out questions along with the draft strategic plan and asking them to provide input. So these questions include, what are their overall impressions of the plan? What would you want city leaders to consider as they adopt and implement the plan? What questions do you have about the strategic plan or about city government? And if you'd like to receive future updates on the plan, we're asking them to include their email. So I think this is both a great opportunity for community members to get involved in the strategic planning process, but I imagine we're going to hear some things that may have relevance for after this planning process is done. So we'll be bringing that input to you on November 10th and really give an opportunity to both reflect on the plan itself, but potentially some implementation and kind of looking forward, what do community members have to say? So we're going to kind of walk through the plan itself and mirror it with the implementation matrix. You have both documents in front of you. So this beautifully laid out version, the public facing, and then this wider document is the implementation matrix. And so again, like Brian shared, this is really the opportunity to get your feedback and to show what changes have made since we were here 2 weeks ago with you. So we'll start on page 2 and 3. This is the mission, guiding principles, and vision. Really the biggest change from the last time since we saw you was around the vision. So we had talked about kind of striking a pithy statement and really focusing on what do we want to say when it comes to the vision for the city and articulating that in this strategic plan. That fits alongside the mission and of course the guiding principles. What are those agreements that you all and staff agree to as you implement this plan and do your work more in general? So wondering from council members if you have any thoughts as you see it laid out. Really, this is the introduction to the meat of the plan as we're setting up this 20-year vision, this long-term view, and setting the context for the plan. Any comments or feedback here? We'll continue to go through it kind of page by page and then open it up for some discussion, and we can flip back to any page as we want to talk more.
Great. So this is certainly the most dense section in the strategy. It's trying to establish some context and set up the 3 strategic initiatives. that the rest of the plan focuses on. So it describes how the city of Snoqualmie has gone from being the fastest growing city in Washington to a population now that's much more stable and much more likely to stay largely the same. So as we move over to the top of page 5, you see that the focus continues to be on housing and economic development. But we acknowledge that the city's land base is really a constraint there. And so a big part of the focus in both additional housing and a more varied type of housing mix and in economic development has to be using your existing land supply, your available land supply. And so that looks at things like infill development and redevelopment of currently developed areas. Housing and economic development both feed the sustainable city services and obviously support the city's fiscal base. So there is some hope that the additional economic development will help support the ongoing provision of high quality city services. But we recognize that there are trade-offs that have to be made. There are some fiscal headwinds facing the city. And so it's likely that you'll face trade-offs as you look to maintain the current level of service. And certainly if you want to make any additional levels of increases in level of service or new services. And so that really leads right into the first initiative where it's so important that you continue to build that trusted community relationship with members of the Snoqualmie community, that you provide responsive and fiscally responsible city services, and that you're proactive in increasing both housing options and economic vitality. So it's a lot of material there, but I think it's establishing the logic of the plan. So definitely want to pause here and see if there's any questions or suggestions.
Councilor Watton?
Thank you. I'm a little bit trying to figure out our mission. I don't find it to be soft, warm, and gentle. I find it to be a little bit clinical. I'd like to have the words welcoming. I'd like to have embracing the changing diversity, something of that nature, while, respecting our history to it. It just, if we want to attract tourism, welcoming is like vital. I think as we bring new folks to our community, we want to be known as a community that embraces all. I see those kind of buzzwords, and those are certainly not the words that need to appear here, but it just needs to be softer, gentler, more kind.
Mm-hmm.
But
On the
that's my
mission.
thought.
On the mission you're talking about?
In the mission.
Okay.
It's too sterile.
So we had.
Oh, so you're not, okay,
Counselor
you're
Benson?
looking back at us. Okay, yeah, all right. I was thinking that you were referring to
Councilor Johnson?
the strategic focus.
So then
okay.
with the mission, was this our mission statement as taken from the comprehensive plan, or was this rewritten? I'm just curious about in the green where that came. That's what you're referring to, is that correct? Yeah.
It is the mission as taken from the comprehensive plan with a little bit of modification to
It
it.
does have, so it's dissent with modification.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Councilor Johnson?
Yeah, so then in that case, if it is modified as it is, then I would agree with Councilmember Watton. If we were just wanting to take just the comprehensive plan language strictly and not change it, then I'd say do that. Whichever path, if we do want to have a modification here to it, then I'm in agreement with Councilmember Watton to just make it a little bit less clinical.
Councilor Christensen?
Yeah, so I'm not disagreeing with what Councilmember Watton says. It just, down in guiding principles, one of the bullets is build an inclusive community by welcoming and valuing all people. So I'm wondering if, because I vaguely remember talking about it last time and wanting to be consistent with the mission statement that we had in the comp plan. And then I thought that we were kind of using the guiding principles then to talk about how we're going to be implementing our mission statement. So I don't know if we need to necessarily change the mission if we're also including the guiding principles that say how we're going to do it, which is in the more warm and welcoming fashion.
Mayor Pro Tem Holloway and then Johnson.
Okay, we're kind of late in the travel here. So my only question is that if you want to wordsmith this, you tell me what we are going to do differently as a result of those words going in than what is already here. If it is not a substantial change or not a a meaningful change to what we're actually going to do, I think the words are okay. I mean, they pretty well encompass. But if there's something we're missing and those words need to be in there, we need to change our actions, then yes, we ought to put them in there. But at this late stage, let's not rewrite the whole thing.
Counselor Johnson?
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with Councilmember Christensen in that I thought that was kind of what we left with last time, was that we were just going to take the mission statement as it was in the comprehensive plan, and then the guiding principles would kind of add some extra little things about what do we mean by that. So in that case, I think that'd be my preference.
Counselor Benson?
That's the way I remember it too. I remember a discussion where we said, if we attack the vision statement, now we will end up with an entirely new vision statement, and we'll do that every time we try to write a vision statement.
That's right.
And that maybe what we need to do is stick with the vision statement or the mission statement that we had, and work from there. I liked the warm fuzziness that Rob was looking for. I think we find in those supporting statements below. I think that's a good way to warm and fuzzy this up. Because I think that's a real fair point. But I thought the same thing you were saying, that we had decided we weren't going to build another mission.
I might actually clarify the record here, and I have a small confession to make, because I do remember that conversation, and that conversation was about the vision statement. We started to have a good discussion about changing the vision statement, and then backed away from that. And I think, as Maddie said, left the vision statement off the page because it's already there in your comprehensive plan. We then violated that principle by changing the existing mission statement slightly. So my suggestion would be to retain your existing mission statement without the edit. And the edit there was we added steward public resources, because we'd heard so much of council focus on that stewardship of public resources. I would suggest that we could move that into the guiding principles and then leave both your mission and your vision unchanged from your adopted statements in your comprehensive
So
plan.
moved.
Counselor Johnson?
Yeah, and I think it's kind of in there in service trusted leaders in managing public resources is the second bullet point.
It is.
Counselor Christensen?
And there's also more down in the vision for Snoqualmie's future, where we're also hitting again the welcoming and safe place to live, small town character enhanced by natural beauties, historic roots, and local arts. So I think that there's more of the warm and fuzzy, and how are we going to make this work going forward in the vision as well. That's on item 2. Page 10.
Counselor Johnson?
Still too cold and prickly.
Yeah, it's okay. Get some hot cocoa down. It's okay. So one thing that I was thinking about with regard to the housing was we get into some more specifics in the economic development and the sustainable city services as to what the challenges are. There are just a couple of things that I think have really been snags for housing that I didn't think that I saw were highlighted that I think are good to say and to be honest about it. And that's that nearly all of the buildable land in Snoqualmie either needs to be zoned or it's in a floodplain, which just adds extra challenges, either policy wise or construction costs, et cetera. Maybe not that last part, just simply the fact that most of the buildable land either needs to be zoned or is in a floodplain, just making redevelopment or development difficult.
Great, we can certainly add that in.
Counselor Christensen?
On that same page, just one line up, I just have a minor request. So it goes on and it says that these 3 elements are part of the foundation of what makes Snoqualmie an attractive place to live. It talks about housing, economic development, and sustainable city services. But under each of the bullet points, it kind of lists how and where the challenges are. I just felt like that first sentence up there should say, you know, these three elements are part of the foundation of what makes Snoqualmie an attractive place to live, and each element presents its own challenges,
Okay.
just because I think you need a little bit more of a segue there. 'Cause otherwise, it kind of sounds like these three things are going to be all hunky-dory, but really, you know, it's saying that these are the issues that we're working with and to try to move forward.
Perfect, great. Oops. Well, good. Let me bring us into the first strategic initiative, which is around focusing on a trusted relationship with the community. So over on the left-hand part of the slide here, we're showing the public-facing version where there are two goals. One about identifying and maximizing partnerships with community organizations to serve as trusted intermediaries. And then the second is to explore pressures and trade-offs in two-way engagement with community members. What's difficult to see over there on the right, but you should be able to see in a paper copy in front of you as well, is we've identified in that salmon color some of the potential items that you might start to implement right away in year one. The first step of kind of mapping out your relationships with community members and identifying where it is that you may have gaps or may not be hearing from different segments of the community. And then down below, starting the city academy. And sorry for the typo in the public-facing document. That should be a city academy, not a citizens academy. Also starting to get out more and more into the community, both staff and elected officials, trying to meet people where they're at instead of asking them necessarily to come into City Hall. So that's an example where the version on the left is like a higher level, what you tell the community, and that's really 5 years work. There's a lot of work to do there. Over on the right is a bit of the tactical details of what steps you might take as you begin to implement that with a particular focus in 2026, what staff and council together would start to work on. There's certainly more need to work on the elements on the right, but we wanted to give council kind of an early indication of how implementation might start to take shape. So happy to take thoughts on this topic.
Councilor Johnson, then Councilor Watton.
I think that we should restart the city academy in 2025,
Yes,
Aha.
because we did.
right.
Councilmember Cott, or Christensen is next.
Oh, Councilor Christensen?
Mine is going to be the same.
I have no idea what Councilor Watton was going to say.
Councilor Watton?
Who's going to be responsible on staff for this? Is that to be determined later, or city administrator will with the mayor pro tem consultation with the mayor pro tem, or is this simply a city responsibility?
Sorry, ask a question again?
So who's going to take on this task of engaging community and that sort of thing?
Oh, well, that's all of us. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The plan is assigned for me to track and make sure people are doing things, but
Okay,
that item is all of us.
okay, thank
You
you.
have a very engaging communications group,
Yeah.
though, as well.
In the
Yep, that-
implementation document, we did try to identify who might be a lead for each of the different areas. So community development, when we're talking about housing and economic development. We listed the city administrator and finance when we're talking about responsive and sustainable city services. And then here around community relationship, we listed communications, but I think it is truly a shared responsibility. And those leads were just Maddie and I's attempt to sort of identify an individual. That would be something that would be, you'd want to work out through implementation.
Thank you.
Councilor Johnson?
But then I heard this term that makes me go, people are gonna think that we're hiding things, public facing versus not public facing. Like, well, first of all, this is a public document,
Sure,
correct?
absolutely.
Okay, so we're not literally hiding things.
Nope.
Secondly, I would just wonder if there's any reason to not have it as like an appendix
Mhm.
to the main document.
A lot of communities that we work with, what they'll do is establish a year one report card out to the community. What I would, and even a year one annual report of what we've accomplished. And we've actually recommended that for you. What I would not recommend is necessarily publishing a plan that says in year 2 and in year 3 and in year 4 and in year 5, this is what we'll do. Because who knows exactly what the world will bring you, the challenges you may see, the opportunities you may see. And so that's where the higher level version, we're hoping you will all adopt and will sit on your plan as your aspirations and your intentions for the next 5 years. I think a 1-year planning cycle is about what you can commit to in terms of what will you actually do that year, and do you have the budget and the resources and the staff capacity, the council capacity to have those conversations. So while none of this is, to be done out of public view, I think in terms of publishing a commitment, I'd recommend about a 1-year commitment for what you would focus on. So the document as it's laid out right now might convey that, or you may want to pare back some of the ideas that could be year 2 or year 3 or year 4, depending on how progress goes.
Councilor Cotton?
Yes, I just was wondering, I know that overall, as far as, take kind of the taking charge of different areas that, that was noted on the document, and that City Administrator Chambliss was going to be kind of overseeing everything. But how much more, I guess, staff time and work and city administrator time and work is there going to be involved in, kind of implementing these things, and then the measuring them, being able to, for the city administrator to come back and make quarterly reports to council with something measurable. I'm seeing that also as kind of a big hurdle. That requires a lot of time and energy and things like that, as far as being able to, accommodate many of the things listed on here.
I would say it's a good question.
I'm happy to speak some to that if I could, Councilmember, Mayor.
Sure. I mean, I would say these are the priorities. And so this is what then we would focus on, right? And there might be other job things that we need to do, but this would be, you're telling us you want to focus on it, this is what we would do. Councilor Johnson?
Yeah, I would hope that from a staff perspective, that there isn't something that's like brand new here that staff members have never seen before as being either a council or a city priority. So hopefully, if anything, this is just saying that these are sort of council priorities as kind of like a guidepost, but there shouldn't be too much here that's adding to the things that the city already would love to do. And that's kind of been coming for a while. And perhaps we're clarifying some things and again, kind of giving some priorities from the council. But I would hope that, that this doesn't look like a new list of things to do for the most part.
Right. City Administrator?
So the team is interpreting this as these are the priorities, not some of the priorities, but these are the main top 3 priorities going forward. And so our work plans will reflect this.
Councilor Johnson?
And just like, there are some things that like, I don't know if making sure that our buildings are up to code or something is in here, right? There's certain things that aren't on here because it's like, we don't even need to mention them. They're ongoing things that we would be doing that we don't need to reprioritize. So again, not like adding new things. Those are things that would have been happening anyway.
Correct.
Water will still flow.
Councilor Watton?
So as I'm looking at this, invest in trusted community relationship, I see that as administration. Provide responsive and fiscally responsible city services. I see that as a finance department initiative that's where it kind of resides. And then proactively increasing housing options and economic, that's clearly community development. So, if we look at it through the lens of that, then it's more palatable. If we look at it as we're doing all these things, then it's like overwhelming. Is that kind of the gist of what's behind this?
Administrator.
I think you identified the leads, but I would argue that, you know, providing fiscally responsible city services is all of the department's responsibility. Obviously, we lean on finance a lot to do the number crunching and keep us within the guidelines, but, you know, each department head here, they're responsible for bringing a fiscally responsible budget forward for the mayor.
And I also state, invest in a trusted community relationship. I mean, that's also council members.
Yeah.
Right.
But it would be kind of led by the finance team with interdepartment action, involvement. It wouldn't be solely the finance department. It would be cross-functional. Right?
We're talking in real abstracts, which is making it.
Okay,
difficult.
okay. I'm just trying to wrap my head
For
around. it.
example, I was having a conversation with finance just the other day about our property insurance schedule.
Mhm.
And I have them doing stuff behind the scenes, but I'm gonna rely on Dina and Jeff to kind of lead that project once we get the information from behind the scenes. Because Dina's our AWC rep and Jeff is in charge of all the property in the city. So it is a team sport.
Do your hand up, Mayor Pro Tem Holloway?
Well, and it's also, if you're really doing these things, it's not only operational, it's strategic or tactical for community engagement. Operationally, when we start to talk liaison positions and whatever, we ought to take a moment and think, are there organizations or things out there that we're not currently engaging with that we ought to? So that there's you're living the vision that is put out here and you're actually doing it as part of your work. I might put also though, it's maybe a 2-year just because we're on a biennial budget. And it doesn't mean anything unless there's dollars attached. Okay? So we may want to do like a match some of this up with a biennial so that we have that planned out and the money's available. But again, and some of it is going to be focus areas for staff based on these priorities. Some is going to be us of what are we doing in pursuit of these, such as liaison positions and things like that. So we need to keep it in forefront.
Councilor Johnson?
I think the Mayor Pro Tem brings up a good point about funding priorities. If we are going into a budget year next year, then this could be something that informs that budget as well.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to just jump ahead on that note. The last page of the strategic plan shows the biennial planning and implementation cycle. This is at a fairly high level, and what it's showing is that each year you're developing a budget, because even in a non-budget year, you're looking at an amendment or an adjustment for the coming year. So it's a smaller amendment, a smaller chance to sort of allocate resources for strategic plan implementation, and then that implementation is happening in the following year. That wasn't quite nuanced enough for Mike and Drew, and there's a much more detailed version on the first page of the implementation plan that goes year by year, whether it is a full budget year or a non-budget year, as to when your council might be having a retreat to establish priorities for the coming year, how that would feed into staff development of proposed budgets, how that affects council's adopted budget, and how that then creates the resources necessary to implement in the coming year. So what we've tried to do in 2026 is identify less resource intensive actions that could be done to sort of start that process, knowing that you'll be developing a full budget with the benefit of the strategic plan later down the line.
Can we get this in a smaller font?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Just hand it to me, I'll hold it
It's like,
for you, right?
oh,
Here.
geez.
We'll work on that. We'll work. I love that you've gone to implementation, and the matrix here is meant to support that. And many of the things that you've touched on can get fleshed out in this. There should be, in our regard, both a team sport approach, because absolutely this is a small team running like a very interrelated strategy, and it's important that everyone's pulling in the same direction. So these are your priorities, right? So these will affect both council and staff across the agency, across the city. You also should have leads for different areas of work, and you should have accountabilities for that. And you should also have supporting players who are supporting that. Sometimes we'll use a RACI matrix or a MOCA matrix, and we can further flesh this out. We may have time to meet back again with staff and talk more about implementation, and be able to map out in greater detail who would be clearly responsible and who would be supporting or being maybe consulted for different activities here. Because it's really important that this management tool be aligned with decision-making that goes forward. And as Mike works with staff and as council works with staff, that you're all pulling in the same direction.
Councillor Johnson?
Are we on part 2 yet? I had something on there.
Let's go there.
Okay.
So the second, let me just speak to this very, very briefly, just to get everyone on the same page. So this is page 7 of the main document. It's about providing responsive and fiscally responsible city services. It has 3 goals. The first is about making the most efficient use of resources as possible. So there's some strategies underneath that I won't speak to. The second is about seeking to maintain current service levels aligned with community priorities. So again, it's that dialogue with the community, trying to retain those existing levels of service. And then C is acknowledging that if the community would like higher or enhanced services, or new services, or possibly in the face of inflation, you may need to call on the community for additional financial support. That's sort of deprioritized in the order of this and the phrasing here, but it's allowing you to continue to evaluate the community appetite for resourcing the city.
Councillor Johnson?
Yeah, so my understanding is that at this point, we are supposed to be getting into like the dotting i's and crossing t's, kind of getting it actually to be correct verbiage wise. So what I'm wondering about from staff is the 70% target for our streets. How close are we to that? And does that sound like a realistic goal? Is that a number that cities typically are able to achieve? And yeah, kind of how close are we? Yeah.
The Parks and Public Works Director, Jeff Hamlin.
Yeah, can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, so for street surface scores.
Yeah.
What it says in the implementation plan is that we want to achieve a score of 70, and actually I wasn't sure if that was like minimum score. Or
Average score, I believe it is. Yeah, our average score.
Yeah, so like, is that a typical number that cities of our size, our development history are able to achieve? Are we like way off from that, or can we go north of that? I have no barometer for that score as like being realistic.
Right. So as the scores go, 70 is in the good category, right? So, there's kind of the failing side, which is kind of down below, 40, 50, 50 to 70 is kind of like your average acceptable, and up to 70 and above is considered good. And so maintaining a street score, a pavement condition index rating is what that's called, of 70 keeps you at the low end of the good category. And so that just means that your streets are well maintained and you are operating in a range which makes your maintenance, it actually gives you the lowest maintenance. So most cities strive for that. That would be kind of a good goal. For us, we are actually achieving that, or very, very close to. I think we are just over 70 right now. And so that is where we want to be, because it, one, keeps our streets in good shape, but also two, it minimizes our annual maintenance burden.
So just one more question on this.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's about that.
Follow up?
Yeah.
And then I do have Finance Director Drew Batade that also have a comment in a minute.
Right.
Councillor Johnson.
So then I was also just wondering then about, maybe it's in there and I just missed it, but about the equity of that level of service. that, of course, we could go up and we could really take care of all the streets on the ridge and then let downtown fall apart, or some combination of vice versa. So there's like an equity piece. And I was wondering if there's any sort of floor that we would want to set to make sure that we never drop below for any street below 40 or something. Like, I don't know what the right number is, but I'm wondering if there's something that we would want to do to make sure that we're not letting one area go, just to make sure that we're hitting that 70 and never dropping below. Like one outlier, right, won't have a huge effect on the overall score if we just let that one go.
Mhm. Well, it's a decision of council, of course, but our recommendation would be to obviously find that optimized, metric for maintaining our streets. What is the best achievable, which kind of keeps us in the lowest operating cost, right? And so we're looking for economic efficiency in this regard. So as far as to answer your question specifically, I don't really know how to answer that. Of course, there's going to be a couple of streets which are on the failing end, right? Lower side. You can take the worst first approach, which is to spend all your money on getting those ones up to speed. But when you do that, you then neglect some of those other streets which are kind of, on in squarely in the zone where you can do inexpensive maintenance and then preserve the pavement life longer. So you kind of blend those. You spend some money on your worst and you spend most of your money on maintaining streets so that they stay in good kit.
Finance Director Drew Boutte.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Council. What I'll say is I've added this to the document as an example, specifically around the concept of performance measurement overall, what we're trying to achieve. And so I think it's really important eventually for Council to set what those goals are overall, because it will certainly help the budget process in the future. So if Council is firm on setting a pavement condition score of 70, for example, that means roughly what we've currently budgeted in the CIP should be sufficient in order to cover that 70 score. But if Council chooses to increase that to 80, we may need now to allocate additional resources to that in order to achieve that 80 level of score with the pavement condition index overall. So what's really important as a part of this is while we're setting goals, it's also important to make sure that we're measuring those goals and our progress towards those goals. And so I just wanted to make sure that that was emphasized as a part of the overall implementation plan, especially when we head up into 2026, to make sure that we take a very clear look at what are we attempting to achieve and how are we going to measure those outcomes moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
So we'll move on to priority number 3, which is proactively increasing housing options and economic vitality. We've spoken a lot about this one, and the last time we were here, especially speaking about, kind of the recent decision on the Mercer Island case from the Growth Management Hearings Board, and how there's some implications that are actively changing as we publish this plan. So the first priority focuses on supporting infill development and redevelopment, recognizing that updating the future land use map and zoning map will be a priority for staff. The second strategy around diversifying housing options is also a priority. So if you're following along in the matrix, we've highlighted a few places that staff should be focusing on in 2026 as we think about the changes that are coming down from the state level. Priority C on this list is growing the community's economy and tourism sector. So you all had some great additions around kind of the institutions that are called out here and the ways that the city and staff support are continuing to support tourism in the area, as well as enhancing events and programming, supporting private investment, and working with regional partners. So are there any questions or feedback on the housing pieces, A and B or C, around economic development?
Pastor Christensen.
Yeah, I have one on C, specifically the third bullet says support actions identified in the 2025 Washington Tourism Workspace Report for Snoqualmie Valley. Now, I know that we've gotten an email of the bullet points, but I don't recall having, and maybe I missed it, but I don't recall discussing what the actions are that we're supposed to be supporting. And so I would just want to make sure that I was familiar with those before I'd feel comfortable, voting in favor of adopting the strategic plan. I need to understand how the pieces fit together before I say yes.
Right,
So
and we
that
have
would be
reached-
my request.
We've reached out to the chamber to provide a presentation to council as well as Economic Development Commission. So
Okay. Do we know if that will be
Provide the
done
report.
before we're being asked to vote on the strategic plan?
I'm not sure. Have you heard anything back? City Clerk Dean?
Sorry.
Have you heard anything back from the chamber of setting up a meeting with them for the tourism presentation? Okay.
I emailed them in July.
Councilor Watton?
So this is kind of a placeholder, say, because it's around sustainable tourism that was done with Department of Commerce. And we do need to have that kind of embedded in here somehow, because there's potential for funding that goes with it as well.
Right.
And it's also in coordination with the Port of Seattle.
Councilmember Cotton, would it feel better to soften this language a little bit? Supporting actions is a little strong and we could generalize the language. The Washington Tourism Workspace was just a recent report that was published, but supporting tourism more holistically.
Potentially, yes. I am not cotton.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me, sorry. Just reading your, Shinson, just reading your nameplate.
Sorry, Kat.
Councilor Johnson?
Yeah, so this last whole page, which is the longest of all of them, a lot of that looks to me like one particular department. And for about the 50 billionth time, that requires staff to do. Which means money. There you go. Just saying.
Right. When you set council priorities.
Yep.
And council goals, and this is exactly what we need to focus on, then we need to have staff for it. Councilor Watton?
So to that point too is community development will ebb and flow. When there's a lot of development happening, there needs to be more staffing. When the development isn't as robust or as quick, then there's other activities that department can undertake. And I think that's kind of the balance is, okay, how are you going to spend that time? And that's what this kind of helps lay out.
True.
Yeah, I'll say on the staffing piece, the implementation matrix, we've had a great conversation of how it points to which departments are leads and how staff members will continue to work together. It does also help clarify where staff time or potentially expertise might be needed, thinking of especially housing and economic development. So.
Councilor
Yeah,
Johnson? Oh,
So just very quickly to build on that, I just note that these are really long-range housing or long-range planning concerns, and that requires that kind of capacity and expertise as opposed to the permitting or something that's happening on a more short term.
Councilor Johnson?
Yeah, and I do know that contracting can do some of this work, but sometimes there is a different level of service between having an employee who's dedicated to these things versus a contractor. I think that the Planning Commission had some interesting recent experiences with that.
Good. So thank you for the discussion. We've touched a bit on this biennial planning and implementation cycle. Do hope that this is setting up a process by which council can be comfortable in setting those overarching 5-year goals and priorities that we've talked about, and also guiding that annual process of making sure the resources are there for staff to do the job, and having that conversation with your city administrator and with staff about the implementation. So happy to take questions as well about this or the teeny tiny font version, which maps that out in sort of an annual basis based on when you are updating your biennial budget, adding that complication.
Any other comments or questions? For Burke? Anything?
I think it's darn fine work.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Well, we look forward to, I'll be back on November 10th. I think Maddie will be away that evening. We will work to make some of the revisions that we've talked about tonight. We have a little bit more layout to do. And then we're eager to come back and share with you what we hear from community members and from stakeholders. And of course, we're going to be in touch with staff, and we may do some revisions on that implementation matrix and talk some about next steps in the coming year. And those would be staff recommendations to council as you start to move from developing a plan to starting to implement a plan. So thank you very much.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So it's now almost 6:50. Any other comments for our team? No. Nice job, and we look forward to seeing you on November 10th. So thank you.
Great.
With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn this special meeting.
A little entertainment. So moved.
Moved by Councilor Johnson, second by who? Councilor Christian. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? And we are adjourned at 6:49. Council, this brings us to our regular meeting of the City Council. The time is now 7 p.m. Let the record show that all council are present except for Councilmember Washington, who has been excused. Council, please stand and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Council Benson, would you please lead the allegiance?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first item of business is to approve the agenda. Council, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved?
Second.
Moved by Councilor Watton, second by Mayor Pro Tem Holloway. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? And the agenda is approved. So tonight we have a presentation from King County Library System, and we have Mary Comstock, the Library Regional Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Ross, and hello, Council. I'm very excited to be here tonight representing your Snoqualmie Library, part of the 50 libraries in the King County Library System. My name is Mary Comstock, and I'm the Regional Manager, and I'm excited to tell you a little bit about what's been happening at the library. And Dana, do you mind? There we go. So let's just start right out with the statistics for the whole library system. So again, we are the King County Library System featuring 50 libraries. These are our statistics for 2024. So we had 677,000 active cardholders across the county. That includes 90,000 student and teacher e-cards. So all teachers and students can have 2 cards. One of them their personal card and one of them their teacher or student card. And that includes, of course, the students in the Snoqualmie Valley School District. So that's allowing those teachers to use our databases and resources in the school libraries and the students to access that while they're studying or just enjoying all the resources. We had 11.5 million physical checkouts and 10.9 million digital checkouts. And you'll notice there on the bottom, that makes the King County Library System second highest in the nation. We're number 2. Okay, we'll do better in 2025 for digital checkouts, but third highest in the world. So that's pretty exciting, and we are thrilled to have the support of our communities in order to do this. Dana, do you mind? Thank you. So what about the Snoqualmie Library? So of those statistics, so far through September 2025, we'd had almost 75,000 people walk through our doors, and that's a lot of people. Not all at once. If you've been to the library, we can't accommodate them. However, that's so far. So we've got a few more months to go. We have almost 5,300 active cardholders in 2025, and we've done almost 1,000 new patron accounts this year. Of those totals you saw in 2024 on the previous slide for the Snoqualmie Library, so far, we've done almost 135,000 checkouts, physical items, and almost 120,000 digital checkouts for a total of almost 255,000 items in the hands of, or on their devices, which are in their hands, of our patrons. Thank you, Dana. Okay, so for those of you who are in the library over the summer, we had our summer reading program, which was called Curious Creatures. You'll notice at that lower left part of the slide, we acknowledge that curiosity is not quiet. And so sometimes the library is quiet, sometimes it isn't, but curiosity never is. Even if you're not speaking, we hope your brain is moving. So we had 544 children register for this summer, and 120 of them, I like to think of the newborns crawling around the library, were newborn to age 5. Almost 350 were 6 to 11. And I was kind of surprised that we only had 77 teens sign up. We would like to do better next year for our teens. And then we had slightly as normal, smaller number of completions through August 31st. Dana, do you mind? Thank you. So Snoqualmie is clearly a community of readers. So I had asked Mayor Ross if she would ask all of you what your favorite reads are. So let's talk about the favorite reads of some of the council members and maybe a city administrator as well. So next slide. So Mayor Ross loves historical fiction, and 2 of her favorites are A Gentleman in Moscow and The Personal Librarian. Both of these are at the King County Library System if you haven't read them. I'm happy to give a book talk if you haven't read them. Or Mayor Ross could probably do that as well. Next slide.
Certainly.
So Councilmember Benson is really an eclectic reader, which I absolutely love. So some of his favorites up there are Animal Farm by George Orwell, Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis, Charlotte's Web, which a lot of us probably know, which is by E.B. White, Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain, The Gospel of John by John, and of course, The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien, all at the King County Library System. All right, Councilmember Christensen, person after my own heart, likes to travel. I've been to London. I have not been to Greece at all. No cities in Greece have I been to. And parenting books, which leads me to the next part. She shared with us the books her children love. And the Osborne books are the fact books that many of you are aware of. And her oldest child loves those different topics in those books. And then also Percy Jackson and the Olympians by Rick Riordan, as well as his other series, Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard. So these are retellings of mythology, which is fantastic. Books by J.R.R. Tolkien. And then her younger child loves the Disney books. Who doesn't? Especially about fairies and princesses, and also the Osborne books. Next one. Councilmember Johnson, must admit, I haven't read some of Councilmember Johnson's favorites. One of them I'm going to get wrong, I'll admit it. But his favorite read over the summer was How I Killed Pluto and Why It Had It Coming. Very curious about that one by Mike Brown. Now, help me out here, Councilmember Johnson. The Chronicles of Prydain?
Prydain.
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 Have not read that one. I'm sorry to say, but I think you need to give me a book talk. Little Mouse. Now, the only one I could find was Little Mouse and the Rocket Ship. Is that the one, or is there a different Little Mouse?
No, that's the one.
Okay,
The
fabulous.
picture, yeah.
Yeah, because and that is at the King County Library System. Family members' favorite read, lots of our favorite read, Watership Down by Richard Adams. And then, of course, favorite read of all time, The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. I'm sensing a theme here going on with our Tolkien favorites. Next one. Okay, Mike Chambliss. Mike Chambliss loves The Caboose Who Got Loose. So I'm hoping, given that we're a railroad town, that we don't have any cabooses getting loose around here. But that is his favorite by Bill
Fun of that.
Heat. Yeah, it's a good one. It is a good one. So what else is happening at the library besides reading and sharing of information and connection? So I wanted to share with you some program highlights. These are some of our fantastic librarians running down the right-hand side there. And some of you may recognize a firefighter there alongside Miss Jennifer, our children's librarian. So some of our highlights, and we have a lot of programs happening every week, so I could just pick a few. We've got programs for all ages, including art classes, writers groups, book groups, programs for teens. And this year we started our new teen advisory board, trying to increase awareness and also a sense of connection for our teens here in Snoqualmie. And then, of course, our little guys, always story time, story time, story time. And that includes our fantastic fire chief and firefighters story time, which had a huge amount of people at it. I think Mayor Ross, you were there too.
I was there.
Welcoming week activities. Welcoming week every year is in September, so we do a lot of programs around that so that we make sure that folks know this is a welcoming community and we're part of it. And then we always want to be at the community events, including Snoqualmie Days, International Block Party. We were at the Tribal Picnic this year, and then of course we're always at Winter Lights every year. So, any questions for me about what's happening at the library?
Councilor Benson?
I just want to say, you kind of downplayed the completions July through August 16th, but when I do the math, it looks like you hit like 50% completions from your registrations. But I think it's amazing numbers for the summer. So
Well,
pat
thank you for
yourself on the
saying
back.
that. I want 100% though.
Well, okay.
I
okay,
know,
you
I know. Yeah, but thank
Crucify
you.
yourself on a pillory of perfection.
Exactly. Other questions?
I would say we always appreciate our check-ins with you quarterly
Yes,
and collaborating on
absolutely.
different events that
Yeah.
are coming up and programs. So
Mm-hmm.
it's been great.
And thank you for bringing that up because I do want to say a huge thank you to staff member Nicole Wiebe,
Mhm.
who works so closely with us on community events and really is a delight to work with and is a great representative of the city. And then I call him Captain Gary, has also, or should I say Chief Gary, sorry, who has also been a great resource for us. You know, we have a lot of conversations around safety and it's very important to keep the area safe. So very appreciative of those two staff members of the city of Snoqualmie.
Any
Anything
comment?
else? All right, well, all I want to say is keep reading.
Yes.
And I'm very much looking forward to being back next year, but I hope to see you in the library well before that. Thanks for your time tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Okay. Moving on, this brings us to our public comment. And 1 second. There you go. So at this time, we provide time for residents to comment on items that are not on the agenda, and no online public comments will be accepted during the meeting. Written comments are encouraged and may be submitted in person, mail, or email to cityclerk@snoqualmiewad.gov. So first of all, is anyone in the city council chambers that want to have public comment? You're doing public comment?
Yes.
We have Mayor Pro Tem Holloway. And so this, of course, you know the rules. They cannot, your name, your city, and this cannot be anything to do with
Understood.
any
We
type
keep
of
a
candidate.
tight watch on the time.
Keep it tight. I've got the clock right here. Ryan Holloway, 7015
minutes.
Laurel Avenue. I'm speaking to you as myself, not as council member right now. In recent history, I had a letter published which had some inadvertent erroneous wordage in it. That is my offense, and I'm going to take ownership of it. Also, my belief that public offense should have a public atonement. In that letter, with choice of inadvertent bad words, it could be interpreted as the fire chief position is being vacant. That is thankfully, factually incorrect. Okay, I have nothing but admiration for the work of the chief, his staff. If this offense has caused you and yours any distress, I apologize. For the thankful help of staff in getting the correction out and advertised, I thank you for that. I apologize for the extra work I put you through. And I think I covered it. That was just this, I want to take responsibility for the actions that I do. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right, public comment is now closed. We move on to the consent agenda, which contains the approval of city council meeting minutes dated September 22nd, 2025 and September 29, 2025. Approval of the claims report dated October 13th, 2025, AB 25-088, Norcom fee approval 2026. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move.
Second.
Been moved by Councilor Watton, second by Councilor Christensen. Any public comment regarding this item? Seeing none, Council, do we have any discussion? All right. Moving on to vote. All approve, say aye.
Aye.
And here Councilor Cotton also voted aye. Any opposed, nay? And the consent agenda is approved. Now we move on to ordinances. We have AB 25-074, compost use and procurement ordinance. Councilor Benson, would you please read the introduction?
Yeah.
Please, thank you.
This agenda bill seeks city council adoption of the proposed ordinance Exhibit A, adopting compost use and procurement policies. Move to approve ordinance 1307, amending Snoqualmie Municipal Code Title 8 related to compost procurement.
So it's just the first reading, so we just need the introduction.
Well, then I'm not going to move that.
Thank you.
Okay, all right.
This is the first reading. Do we have any questions? We do have our project engineer, Patrick Fry, who is here to answer any questions. Do you have questions? Mayor Pro Tem Holloway?
Considering this stage is a reporting requirement at best, would council consider waiving second reading and we just adopt tonight?
Councilor Benson?
Is the second reading really for us, or is it to allow public comment if somebody from the public deems it necessary? I'd love to get this rolling too, but if there is somebody in the public who wants to make a statement about this, I think we need to give them the opportunity.
Thinks we
Dude,
shouldn't report our
I
decision
don't get to
conflict?
decide that.
No, I mean, the first and second reading is state law. And I believe it was, yes, to give time for public comment because most of these ordinances are much more meatier than this. This one, at this stage, again, like I said, is merely a reporting requirement on are we using compost?
So Councilor Christensen has her hand up. Let's let
Sorry,
her
I'll
respond.
shut up.
I'm going to rain on your parade as well, Councilmember Holloway.
I'm sorry, what?
I said I'm going to rain on your parade as well. I do agree, unless it's something that's time sensitive or we need to waive it. I think that we should just go forward with the way that it should be. Again, I don't anticipate, residents coming up with deep concerns and
Almost
convictions about
like-
this. But I do think that it's important to make sure that we're following the time so that if somebody does have a concern that they can have a chance to raise it.
And we have Patrick Fry, who would be happy to answer any questions. Do we have
Can you
any?
give us a quick overview, just like a 2-minute buzz through it?
I would be happy to. Let me share my screen and I'll even run through that presentation, which should be about 2 minutes. Should be quick. Okay. Just keep it brief. So ordinance 1307, compost procurement, which is really just, I boiled it down to three main bullet points, which is essentially a call out that we must use compost in city projects where practicable. So that's all city projects. That's, operations as well as CIP projects. We have to utilize locally generated compost, again, when it makes sense. And then, as Councilmember Holloway alluded, we have to report to ecology biannually, so every other year. Why do we have to do this? Because the state told us we have to. They said that all cities with populations of 25,000 or more, or cities that have organics collection have to do this. It is in order to meet a state goal of 75% reduction of organic material in landfills by 2030, as well as intending to reduce methane emissions, which, as we discussed at the committee meeting, or less organics in the landfill means less greenhouse gases, essentially.
Well, and tell them the interesting.
Councilor Benson?
Tell them the interesting thing about how if he turned into compost, it doesn't.
Well, that was a Jeff point, so he's a lot more knowledgeable in this.
Me?
No,
Oh, yeah, right.
he just knows this way better than I do. He used to work in the garbage industry when I have not, so I'd probably say something wrong. So I'd rather not.
Representative Holloway?
Well, and the short of it was, if you put it in a landfill, it's anaerobic decomposition, which will generate methane. If you do it a compost, it is aerobic in the air and it will generate less methane. So that's the methane reduction in what Mr. Plant brought to us.
That was way better than Patrick would have said.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't know.
And so in implementation, and so how is this going to affect us as a city? Well, the Urban Forestry Group, it really has no change in their process, and that's just because they generate all of their own mulch. So that's from, the blowdowns that they get, the removing tree hazards. They create all of the material that they use, and so that's what goes into all of our parks, and really any sort of urban forestry improvement there. So operational, not much. As for CIP projects, I'm gonna have to go in and change all of our specifications for soil amendments in our capital projects. Realistically, that's not a huge change, just because it's a spec that's buried, on page 700 out of 750 in the spec book. And it's just gonna call out, hey, you can't use, purchased soil from whatever site. It now needs to be compost from a local source. And realistically, that will have little to no financial change. I say no financial change just because a lot of the specs that deep don't actually get reviewed by contractors. They know what soil amendments typically cost, and they're not going to go and look at your spec calling out that you have to use compost. But if they do, then they will probably increase the minor portion of the contract of the capital project contracts to increase it just a touch to account for now that rather than using regular soil that's a little bit cheaper, that'll have to be compost. So will we see a change? Probably not, but there is a chance that we'll see a ever so slight change and increase in prices there. I think we have.
Councilor Benson?
Will we see any difference in the performance of our urban forestry projects? Will this help our projects?
So theoretically it would, yes. Our soil, compost is supposed to be a great soil amendment, but I'm not a plant soil science guy, so I can't really speak exactly to, are we going to see
Ryan,
better?
will it help our?
The trees will be greener. No, well, in essence, for urban forestry, we generate our own compost already. So we're already doing this. So no, in urban forestry, the trees will be greener if you can measure it, but I don't see significant change.
There will be a little bit of my time in just compiling and reporting this. So that's realistically probably the biggest effect that this is going to have in the short term. Just as a point of bullet, the state requirement also is compelling all cities to have organic collection for all residents and businesses by 2027. Again, this is a non-issue. We're already doing that, but just an interesting little bullet. And then one big asterisk on this is, as alluded to earlier, or as stated earlier, the state is hoping to reduce organics in landfills by 75% in 2030. Right now, they don't know how much reduction they're going to see in the short term. And so we just had to start reporting this year on it. So if they feel that they need to make further, more drastic measures in a year or two or three, then there might be new rules coming out. And that is typically what we've come to expect is state usually comes out with more progressive rules. And so right now, not a lot of effect coming from this state mandate. But in say 2028, 2029, 2030, it might be different. And I might be coming here saying there are rules that are going to affect us a little bit more.
Councillor Johnson?
Did you say that the compostable material is going to be mandatory for residents?
Just collection. So we have to provide organic collection to residents.
Everyone has to have a green bin. Or they have to have the option to.
They have to have
opt
the
in.
they have to have the option.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Benson?
For those of you that were at the Green Snoqualmie event on Park Street recently, you saw a great example of urban forestry using mulch. Jason Battles was saying they went heavy with the mulch in that project. They had a whole lot of windfall from Autumn Avenue that ended up being reused down there. But yeah, our urban forestry is already doing a great job of this. So.
Yes. Right. Any other comments? Right. Thank you, Patrick. Next item is committee reports, AB 25-086, King County Detention Services. This is for information only, and you can find it in your packet. And this was reviewed at the Public Safety Committee. So is there any further report for public safety?
That is it.
Okay. How about Community Development Committee? Any further report for them?
No report.
Parks and Public Works?
Nope.
Finance Administration?
One, you'll find in your inbox a write-up of our 2025 legislative priorities. I'd like to get to work on 2026 legislative priorities. Like to incite you to conversation. So please review, pick your favorite FNA member if you've got questions or things you want in there that we haven't got covered. And then in a future council member meeting, we'll bring that back for our focus in the 2026 year to come. And other than that, that's it for FNA.
All right. So moving on to the mayor's, oh, wrong one.
Hello,
the mayor.
hello, Mayor.
Councillor Cotton?
Yes, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to add on one item that did come up at the Parks and Public Works Committee, the last meeting. That we are getting every 2 weeks updates on the Snoqualmie Valley Health Lift Station. And it is, the sensors have been put in place and are taking the data, which is the first step. And at our last week's meeting, we had just another week of data to collect, and then the consultants were going to be processing all of that. So everything seems right on track for that.
Great, thank you. Thanks for the update. Okay, mayor's updates. So today we are celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day. We honor the history, diverse cultures, and resilience of Indigenous people across the country and in Snoqualmie Valley, including the Snoqualmie Indian tribe. We are scheduled for full closure of State Route 18 over Tiger Mountain this next weekend, starting Thursday 9 p.m. and reopening Monday 5 a.m. So the big news of this is, what?
Sorry, I said this Thursday?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So once it opens back up, we will see the new configurations of the 2 lanes in State Route 18. So it'll be pretty much done. So other than repaving, that'll happen probably in the spring. So the diverging diamond will be working, should be working great once all those lanes open up. So we're looking forward to that Monday morning. So maybe we'll go drive it just for fun. So the Snoqualmie tribe, they submitted a letter to the Valley Record regarding reclaimed water. And we have added details regarding this to our website regarding our reclaimed water program. And then I've also reached out to the tribal chairman, Robert de Los Angeles, to meet and talk through it and kind of understand their perspective and and have an open collaborative dialogue with them. So we are waiting to hear back about when we can set up a meeting. I want to take a moment and recognize and congratulate Kim Johnson. Is she online? She's back there. There she is, right over there. Okay. So she's our HR manager, and she earned her professional in human resources certification. We're incredibly proud of her achievement and grateful for her expertise, dedication, and leadership that she brings to our city. So congratulations. Yay. We heard today, the city of Snoqualmie, we've been named as a top performer in the 2025 Best in Governance Awards. And the honor recognizes the city's excellence in the category natural environment. So this is part of the 2025 National Community Survey. So they took the top surveys and looked at who the top in each of the different categories and also looked at our benchmarks. So we really exceed or excel in that area nationally and also regionally. And so our residents gave us an overall quality of natural environment rated at 98%. So you can't beat that. But it's a combination of, it includes categories like air quality, cleanliness, water resources, preservation of natural areas, open space, recycling, yard waste pickup, and some other categories. So we did really well. So I'm very proud of the city. That is awesome. The city staff will be taking it's a security awareness training, which is an interactive training course, and we'll learn about the latest cyber threats and attack methods cyber criminals use to target individuals and gain access to sensitive information. So we will also be inviting council to attend. It's not attending the training, it's all online, so we'll send you links to that. And so we'd appreciate if you would also take that. And we're also going to ask our commissioners to take the training as well. So anyone that has a city email really needs to take this training. I just think it'll help you here at the city as well as at home. And with that, we have this is our third week of City Academy, and the participants will be at the Parks and Public Works facility Saturday from noon, or actually 9 to noon. So that seems to be going very well. And with that, we'll move on to City Commission liaison reports. Do you have any reports? Councilor Christensen?
Yeah, so we've spoken a number of times now about the indigent defense caseload standards. That letter was passed through PIC and it was voted in favor of sending it out. And that again is looking at the amount of decreasing that will happen for the caseload of public defenders. In addition, 2026 SCA boards and committee application process is open. If anyone would like to serve on a regional board, we are always looking for more representation for the city, and it can be very helpful in terms of learning what's going on out there across the various boards. If you're interested, please let me know. Otherwise, I think they're sending them to your email as well. I will be on the nominating committee this year. Obviously, I can't give you any benefit that you wouldn't otherwise have, but do please consider applying because it's great to have our voice out there, and as well as increasing our understanding.
Great. Any other? Okay, so let's hear from our City Administrator Chambliss, who will provide the overview of the department reports.
Thank you, Mayor. Communications, part of their report includes the City Academy, which basically was stood up on Dana's shoulders. She did a lot of work to get that up and running. We've had 2 successful classes, I guess I'm going to call them, so far. We got 4 to go. Fire department had 129 incidents in September. 60% were for emergency medical services and 40% were for fire or service-related incidences. There's a good write-up in here from HR about all the employee training and other initiatives that are being pushed out. And as you're all aware, the personnel policy handbook has been updated, and that is a huge accomplishment. There's also examples of the employee spotlight that's being put out between the HR and the communications department, which highlights employees with some pretty good graphics. The IT department's writing about how they're constantly upgrading the servers and getting things dialed in. So it just works, which was my task for Fletcher when he got here. I said, just make it work, please, just make it work. And then our crime reports went down from last year. The police department here in Snoqualmie and actually in North Bend also, by about 20 calls in both places. And then finally, Public Works is a very detailed 4-page listing, listing everything that's going on in Public Works. Thank you. No, it's perfect, Jeff. It really is. And then I always like to highlight that the Department of Corrections did 7 work days last in the month of September. Not only did they clean out 6 of the stormwater ponds, but they also went up to Snoqualmie Point Park and did the vegetation management up there, which is a huge lift for our staff to do. So very grateful for their help. Thank you.
Great, thank you. There's a lot going on in the city. Anything else? And none? We'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We moved by Councilor Johnson, second by Councilor Christensen. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Nope. Motion passes and we are adjourned at 7:34.